the cosmos and studying these different things in college, chemistry, and just trying to think like it might just be a lot simpler than what it first seems. There might be some kind of simple progression. When we look at life, we wouldn't expect something simple, but there might be some simple threads and patterns that we see. And that's when that existential sustainability popped up.
Well, Matt, I don't know. It seems to me that large portion of what it is that an individual believes or doesn't believe is, I guess this is probably a debatable point, but is culturally based. You know, you grew up in a certain place at a certain time, you believe whatever the zeitgeist at the time is, unless you're a radical, and you probably are. But what I mean is so much of, you can see it all over the world. So much of, it doesn't have to be specific to spirituality or religion, but just the ways in which you look at the world is determined by the house that you grew up in, the way, the adoption of what your parents believed and the way in which they interpreted the world, and your classmates and your peer group, etc. And I think so what came before that? How did that continue? I mean, as far back into antiquity as you go, you don't, as a small child, grow up in an isolated environment, completely devoid of other people's perceptions of reality being, forced sort of upon you. I mean, you grew up into a system that you didn't necessarily choose, and I think more of the question is how do you break free from that? How do you break free from to really explore your own unique experience of reality without it being completely overshadowed by the cultural reality that you grew up in and the mores of the time, to explore your own truth. So, unless I'm mistaken, it seems that that's, largely the underlying subtext of the question, like, why do we believe this and how can you change that?
I'm thinking that the fact that we are here, to begin with, and we are questioning, whatever teachings and socialization and ethnic, perhaps cultural mores that we grew up with and went through our lives with. Many people grow through their lives without questioning that at all. They never. To them, they just simply accept, what was taught to them, and they don't think about the possibility of ever changing their thinking in any way. And I think the fact that we are here is I think a step in the right direction. That and I think it's necessary that as many people as possible, in addition to this group, begin to question, what is right and what is a better way than perhaps what we grew up with, that we can, attain that sense of inner peace and a sense that we are doing the right thing for ourselves and the world.
Leanne, you've also been somewhat absent from this conversation, and yet you have a brand new headset mic. Can I please hear your voice?
There we go. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I have a brand new mic that I'm learning how to use. So, Santa came early this year. First of all, I would like to say that it is an absolute honor to be recording with you. And I've actually found a lot of similarities between religious science and the church that I attended back home. I went to the Unitarian Universalist congregation of Lakeland, which has a very non-judgmental, truth-based, whatever somebody's particular truth happens to be, without those judgments. So I'm kind of curious, what would you consider the first signs of what some would consider a more enlightened awakening or consciousness that would lead someone to embrace the religious science outlook in life and spirit? Like, what would be one of the unifying transformations that one would most definitely come to in their spiritual journey, that takes them away from the isolation of religion and into a more common brotherhood of souls?
You're asking me that question. That's a beautiful question. You know, I actually, this is probably not the answer that you might be expecting, but I think it is the pain in life that sets us on the spiritual path in many cases. And that we go through things in life where we're feeling at the effect of life. And the pain of that, I think one day becomes just a little bit too much. And we say somewhere within us, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm not going to do it this way again. And so I think perhaps we begin, at least I did anyway, began to quest out of that desire to know more and to live a life that felt more free and happy. And I think in the process of my own personal quest in that way, then it opened up into, you know, and how do I live my life now with other people in a way that is productive and helpful. But I would love to know how you answer that question, Leanne.
I can only speak from personal experience, and for me, it was more from the fact that ever since I was a child, I've always had a very questioning nature, and I've always had a love of knowledge and searching, and always trying to know the truth. And I think that as long as one does not want to be stagnant, as long as they continue questioning and trusting their instincts, knowing that they're on the right path for them without condemning those around them, and acceptance that there are so many different paths, and that it is not within our rights to say, well, you know, I believe this, and because it says in my religious teachings that I'm right and you're wrong, then I have a right to look down on you and I have a right to judge you. It's a matter of accepting what you believe as well without having to worry about the judgments of others, where you feel comfortable trusting that voice that's inside you that does guide you, that guides each of us in our own individual ways. So once fear is removed, because I've discovered that so much dogma throughout the world contains fear, and it's fear-based, and it's you have to believe this or there are going to be repercussions. And once you move beyond that and understand that that presence inside you that questions is a real presence, it is real, and it is okay to listen to it, then I think everything else begins to strip itself away.
Reverend Kathy was my reverend when I first started attending the Pacific Church of Religious Science in San Diego, and she has, since that time, wow, Reverend Kathy, you've been on quite the journey. The very class that I was finishing, that was a foundation class where we got to know the ins and outs of the church and the secret handshake and all that. At that very ending of that very class, someone had asked Reverend Kathy what she intended on doing with the church, and in fact, she was choosing to step away. And,
oh, you were there.
Yeah, as our senior minister, and she had a lot of turmoil happening in her personal life, and then not long after that, she became pretty much the representative for the entire worldwide movement. But she is someone from whom I've always been able to glean a better understanding about life. One of the reasons why I think that I was so intimidated by the idea of going to divinity school was the daunting task of being the vessel for truth for an entire community, as you do at all times. And I'm sure there are things you have to do in your role, like marry couples that are beautiful and not challenging necessarily, and then there probably are other times that where you maybe have to do something, or you have an experience with someone that perhaps drains you afterward. So maybe not specifically with your travels, but just in general, what are some of the more challenging undertakings you've had?
Well, I would say, first of all, that I am my own biggest challenge. And then other people come up, a close second beyond that. But I like to talk about spiritual community as a place where we come together and grow up all over each other.